Hi everyone, welcome back. It's been a slow weekend in AI terms, but I have some interesting news to cover today. Meta makes a bold hardware play with its acquisition of Limitless. OpenAI is racing towards a surprise GPT 5.2 release. Meanwhile, Google continues to stretch its lead on top of leaderboards. And finally, the largest AI conference just revealed who really is leading the global AI race. All right. So let's start with the acquisition of the startup Limitless by Meta. Now, Limitless is a startup that is behind the AI powered variable called Pendant. Pendant is a clip on device that is always listening to your conversations. It transcribes your audio into text. You can then use its AI to make you give summaries of your conversations, give you action items. You can ask questions about your day, etc. I think Meta's intention is pretty clear with this acquisition. It wants to secure the ultimate competitive mode that is possible in this AI race, and that is going to be the hardware space. For example, it's easy for me to switch from, let's say, ChatGPT to Gemini if the latest Gemini model is great. But if I have an OpenAI hardware device that I paid, let's say, 200 for, I would think twice before making the move, right? So, so, so this kind of gives you a competitive mode that we haven't really seen in the AI space before. It does get interesting for Meta though, because they already have smart glasses in this space, and they are going to discontinue the Pendant, which makes sense. Um, uh, I think they pretty much just wanted to hire the team behind Pendant, and that's been their strategy in the last year or so, which is to aggressively poach people from competitors or hire people from competitors. In fact, earlier this year, if you remember, Meta actually committed up to like $1 billion in like compensation for the top hiring recruits. And I think in this case, I think it is justified because like building AI hardware is notoriously difficult. It requires like a different discipline than something like training models. Meta does have products in the hardware space, like in the VR space. They have the smart glasses, but this ambient AI space is kind of new. But the Limitless team has been doing it for like 5 years, right? And they've already navigated like this, like the supply chain issues, the form factor constraints, the user behavioral issues that people come up with in these kind of wearables. The biggest thing is that this hardware space is different because it's not supposed to be flashy. Like you need to have hardware that is simple, camouflaged, like more ambient. So you need something that can just like disappear and like not interfere with like your day to day, but also it should keep you connected to your AI tools, right? All right, next news is that OpenAI is reportedly getting ready to launch GPT 5.2 as early as this week. Um, if this does get launched, it will be, I think, under a month in which they have like released a newer version, which is pretty fast for them. I think it's pretty clear that OpenAI doesn't want to give Gemini any breathing room, especially since the Gemini app downloads have been climbing like really fast. I made the move to Gemini this month, and the best way to slow down the momentum that Gemini is gaining is to drop something better. OpenAI's chief research officer Mark Chen said internal testing does show that the new model that they're working on is beating Gemini 3 Pro in some benchmarks. But the key phrase is that in some benchmarks, and like not all of them, but still that is setting expectation that it will be better in some ways. And I think it is very important for GPT 5.2 to kind of land. If it doesn't, it's going to be a very bad look for OpenAI, especially when Sam Altman declared like code red and pulled resources of other projects like the ads project that they were working on to focus on their core models, right? Uh, Meanwhile, Google is prepping to launch Nano Banana 2 Flash, which is basically the same performance as Nano Banana 2 Pro, which was launched earlier. But this Flash version will be at a lower cost, right? Nano Banana 2 has been actually a pretty great win for Google. And they've already started to roll it out into their current ecosystem, things like Google Slides. And on top of that, Google is also planning on integrating the Opal agent builder, which into the Gemini kind of chat platform or application. Opal is an experimental no-code tool from Google Labs that lets you build AI agents directly inside the chat interface, which is a very cool idea. But the problem I think Google has is that Google already has Workspace Studio, which lets you build custom AI workflows, right? So at some point, if Google like fumbles, it would be because not because of like model quality, or it will primarily be, I think, because Google has too many competing products in the same space, and it's going to end up confusing its own user into like what tool to invest in, right? All right, final news for today would be the NeurIPS conference, which is the leading AI conference in the world. It wrapped up last week, and it gave us a good snapshot of who's actually pushing the frontier in AI. This year's results show that US and China basically are tied in accepted papers, but it's very interesting to note how both of them are getting there. So US is pretty much led by our corporate labs like Google DeepMind, Meta, Microsoft, whereas China's leadership comes almost entirely from universities and state-backed research institutes. So pretty much so it's like two different countries who have the same output but completely different research ecosystems. And I think this divide could have real term like real long-term consequences. For example, the US might become increasingly dependent on a handful of like giant tech companies that control most of the talent, compute, like research direction. Meanwhile, China, their university plus state model gives it a tighter national coordination. So any breakthrough they come across can move faster into policy, industrial planning, and large scale deployment. All right, that's all I had for you today. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.